Welcome back. I'm Susan Woods. This is the Grant Writing MasterClass online version, and we are preparing to discuss component number 8 of 10, component number 8 of 10 of a standard grant proposal. Component number 8 is the implementation timeline. And we're going to talk about the implementation timeline from the perspective of how do you write a timeline to show how the different activities you listed or defined or described in your program description will be implemented so that the grant funder can track that timeline to know how different things are going to happen and in what sequence. There are some grant funders who will use the implementation timeline after they have given you money. They will use the implement timeline to just show up at your nonprofit organization on certain dates in which you said that things were going to be happening. So creating an implementation timeline not only allows them to track the way that you are going to implement the services, but also provides a way for them to come and see you implement the services. So this is a very important component. So the implementation timeline is a very simple table that lists how the program will be implemented. The best way to create an implementation timeline is to write a list of tasks first and then organize them in a logical sequence, a logical chronological sequence. Let's talk about that more. The implementation timeline, I like to use just a basic table, like I said, a timeline, and divide it into 4 columns: what, when, how, and whom, or who or whom. The what tells what activities you've already said you're going to do in your program description. So we're talking about the ABC reading fundamentals that Mrs. Gladys Jones wants to implement in her community, and she has hired you to be her grant writer. So we need to list in chronological, logical sequencing the order in which the different activities should take place. And then we're going to say when are these activities going to take place, and then we're going to say how are these activities going to take place, and then we're going to say who or whom are going to complete the activities. So looking at this implementation timeline that I have shared with you here, we say the first thing on the list is hire reading teachers. And then we're going to train reading teachers. Then we're going to advertise the program. Then we're going to enroll appropriate students. Let's start right there. Now, looking at the what, the first 4 things here, this is not very good. Because how are you going to hire reading teachers without announcing that reading teachers are needed? Without pre-screening, without interviewing. So that's why it's important before you even get to the timeline and adding information to the timeline to write a task list. The task list is a list of tasks that you must complete in order to implement the program. So on your task list, you just going back to the brainstorming like we did for the budget. Just brainstorm everything that you need to do in order to implement this reading program, and then go back and put numbers beside each task. What should take place first? What should take place second? And I would advise you to use a pencil, because I guarantee you, you're going to have to go back and say, oh my goodness, that's not first. This is first. You're going to have to do that until you get a good logical, chronological sequence. Once you've done that, once you've completed your task list and you're satisfied with the sequencing of it, then you put it into your implementation timeline. And then after you've done that first column, the what, those are the tasks that I just talked about. You put those tasks under the what column in the right sequence. Then you go to when. Then you go to how. Then you go to the who or whom. So, but this just using this as a sample. We'll just keep going. Let's say the what, hire reading teachers. When? 4/30/13. How are you going to hire them? Through interviews. Who's going to complete the interview? Jane Doe. Go to the next one. Train reading teachers. When? 5/10/13. How are you going to train them? Through classes. Who's going to teach the classes? James Jones. Next, advertise the program. When are you going to advertise it? Ongoing. How are you going to advertise it? Different strategies. Who's going to do that? James Jones. 4, enroll appropriate students. Appropriate students, I guess, reading students. When? 5/25/13. How are you going to enroll them? Referrals. Who's going to handle that referral process? Jane Doe. Now, I'm not going to read each one of them because you can see them on the screen, but I can look at this whole list and know that there needs to be some type of tweaking going on. One thing I would do or recommend doing is in the what column, instead of having bullets, I would put numbers. I would assign number 1, number 2, number 3 in the steps so that you can see how they go. I know in the when column it shows the dates, but it just would be easier for the reader to have numbers in front of each of the what or tasks that are listed there. The what are your tasks. So just make sure that when you create an implementation timeline for Mrs. Gladys Jones, since you were hired as a grant writer, that you are very meticulous in what you're doing. Very meticulous in creating it because, again, sometimes grant funders will want to visit the site to see how their money is being used. So when you go down a little further, you say teach the reading class is ongoing, and how are you going to do that? Through grants, and who's going to do it? Mary Smith. Well, since it's ongoing as a grant funder, that means once your program starts, which I'm going to know the start date and the end date, I can just show up. Since you said ongoing, make sure it's ongoing. Make sure you're not teaching reading classes from 10 to 2 and doing other things at the other times of the day. So those are just some tips to creating the implementation timeline. I want to be very careful about how we share this information. But I like the layout. It's easy to follow. You don't have to use what, when, how, who. You can use different words if you want to for the columns, just to make sure that the grant funder can follow along with what you are saying or what's being shown here. Very short and sweet, huh? Assignment number 8. Write a task list that includes all of the steps required to implement the ABC Fundamentals Reading Program. Just like I said. And then next, organize a task list in a logical, chronological sequence, and then create the implementation timeline and save it in the assignments folder. That's assignment number 8. Very short, very sweet. Compared to assignments number 6 and 7, this is a very simple assignment. Well, I guess simple is relative. Take a 5-minute break. In between completing these components, I would recommend taking a 5-minute break, if not longer. With some of the long components, you may need to just walk away and come back another day. That's why with this online class, you have a whole month to complete it. You started on the first day of the month and you submit the information in your assignments folder on the last day of the month. So you have a whole month for the online class, and that's why it's an advantage really to take the online version, because you can take the class and complete the task around your schedule at your pace in the privacy of your own home. With the in-person class, there is no way you will get the hands-on activities that you are able to complete with the online version, because we just don't have the time. That class is only from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. in one day. So we don't have the opportunity to complete the hands-on assignments like you're having. We talk about them, but we don't complete them. So for people who complete the In-person class, I do give them the option to complete the online class at no additional charge. I just send it to them because some people, even though we do a good job of presenting the information in the in-person class, some people want to go that extra step and have all of the activities to complete as well. So we do allow that to happen for those of you who want to, for those of them who want to do that. What's next? Well, up next you have the number 9, the ninth component of a standard grant proposal, which is the evaluation plan. How are you going to evaluate the services that you're going to provide? Again, this is Susan Woods, and I thank you so much for enrolling in this online grant writing masterclass, and I hope that it has not only met but exceeded your expectations so far. Thank you again, and I look forward to continuing this process of learning with you. I'm a lifelong learner, and clearly you are too. So thank you.